back to another European preview video, this time with Shamrock Rovers and their Europa Conference League tie against Teuta from Albania. First leg comes up obviously on Thursday, Philip. It's at Tala Stadium. You nervous?
Absolutely, Keith. Terrified, to be honest with you, because obviously it's going to be a tricky game.
Yeah, absolutely as well. I mean, I just look back at them though as well, to be fair. I do think on paper, anyway, Philip, and maybe that's the scary thing as well in a way, they could have got a tougher tie in fairness. I think something like their last 12 European ties, they've lost 10, something like that. But obviously more recently this season, Philip, they lost in the Champions League qualifier 5-0 in aggregate to Sheriff from Moldova, but they did get through their last Europa Conference League match in the last round 3-2 after extra time, I believe, against Inter of Andorra. You actually watched the second leg of that match as well, so what did you take from that leg from watching them play?
Yeah, look, I suppose first of all, it wasn't a bad game. It was very entertaining, which was something that I probably wasn't expecting from both of the sides. But they did put on a good contest. I think they have a little bit going forward, Keith. They do have a little bit going forward, but I do think defensively, I think a Shamrock Rovers side on like the team that played against Pats. If we went about our performance like that, I think we could hurt them defensively. I think they're a bit vulnerable. They do have one good centre half, but I'm not sure. He seems to be a bit older. In terms of he was playing, and then there was another lad playing on the left side of him. He wasn't great. He looked a bit immature, if you want to say. And
did they play with two centre backs, Philip?
Well, yeah, they kind of changed throughout the game. Yeah, they did change throughout the game. As the tie changed, I think they started with a 3, or at least the whole of the midfielder was really, really deep. And then all of a sudden, it looked like they were playing a flat 4. So they can chop and change from what I've seen. But they can knock the ball around when they get the chance to. Again, look, the opposition is questionable in terms of the quality of the team they were playing. But saying that, you're only in the Europa Conference competition if you've done okay in your league. And they obviously, both sides did, and put on a good spectacle. At one stage, it looked like they were going to go out, to be honest with you. But they did rally, they got the result, and they got through. So, look, again, it's fine margins, Keith, when it comes to this sort of competition.
Did you find, what kind of team were they in terms of how they played? Possession-based, counter-attack, direct football, a mix? What was their general style of play that you picked up on, maybe?
I think the manager tries to play football, but I think he recognises that he doesn't actually have the best midfield that he probably would want to be able to do that. There were spells in the game where they just had to kind of drop back 5-10 yards when they were under pressure. Do you know what I mean? And you could see that they weren't able to counter attack, but they do try to retain possession. So it was really difficult to kind of get a concept as to what way they approach games. You know what I mean? Especially with it being a second leg, you would think, because at one stage, as I said, they looked like they were going out, and then all of a sudden they're really pushing forward and they're trying to get numbers into the box. So, I would say that I'd say if they had a preference, they would like to play a bit of football, but I don't think they would have as much quality as the likes of ourselves would when it comes to knocking the ball about. So, yeah, that's kind of where I think they'll go with the game. I think they'll try match us when it comes to the possession sort of game, but I just don't think they'll have the quality. But saying that, I thought they were going to go out, as I said there numpty times. I thought they were going to go out, and they turned it around. So, you can't underestimate a squad like this coming into a big game like this.
No, you can't. But it sounds like to me that you don't think they're as good. They wouldn't necessarily be better than League of Ireland clubs, essentially. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
On the face of it, anyway.
Yeah. I just thought about, like I said it to you there earlier on, I thought someone maybe like the likes of Drogheda or Derry would be actually able to give this side a game, and that's no disrespect to those clubs. They're doing okay since the break has finished, but Drogheda obviously not so well, but I still think Drogheda would be able to give them a game. But that kind of puts into context where they're at. I think if you're a League of Ireland person watching this video, I would say it's like Rovers playing against the likes of a Drogheda or a Derry, but obviously you need to kind of give them the respect as well. I don't want to be saying, oh, we're going to walk through them, because we don't walk through the likes of Derry, we don't walk through the likes of Drogheda. It is a very competitive division, but that's kind of where I think the standard is for them at the minute, Keith.
Yeah, as well as that, you mentioned the midfield there. That must be an avenue that you would feel from Shamrock Rovers' point of view that they can really get into them, because the last game, as an example, against Pats, the midfield of Rovers was very good against a good midfield, if I'm honest, as well. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Rovers have a lot of players that can come into midfield and really perform, and they're performing well lately as well.
Yeah, exactly. And look, Keith, I suppose I was chatting to one of the lads, I was chatting to Vincent, me mate, about it, because we watched the second leg of that game together, and we both said that game is set up perfectly for Richie Towell. I just think that everything that they try to do in midfield will just walk a dream to him, because they haven't got the quality to be able to do what they want to. So I think Rovers might be able to exploit that. But saying that as well, Keith, like, out wide, they do like to get their fullbacks forward, which is another thing that we might have to take into consideration. Do you know what I mean? Gannon was obviously rested during the night, but I don't know. I think he might start during the week, because I think it's another avenue we might be able to exploit, because when they do push on, they do tend to leave themselves a bit vulnerable. Now, look, I don't know if that was because they were chasing a goal at one stage in the game, but like they did look like they could be exposed if they were playing against a bit of a better side in terms of the quality of standard of the opponent. So that is another way to go about it. But as I said, I think this game is set up perfectly for Richie Towell, and the likes of Gary O'Neill and Dylan Watts, I think as well, they'll try push on, because I don't think they're the best midfield that we'll ever play against.
Here's one for you, actually. I think those three will play. But who's going to play, Mandrew or Burke? Because I think it's going to come down to that. Do you?
Yeah, I do, actually. That's a great question. I hadn't thought about that.
It's a tough one, because I think Burke was kind of nearly rested for this game, but then Mandrew goes and scores 2 goals.
He was niggled. He did have a niggle, though, apparently. Yeah, apparently he had a niggle. I don't know. I think he might. If it is
it's a nice problem to have, Philip.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, absolutely. I think, if I'm honest with you, Keith, I think if it is a niggle with Bogey, I think he'll go with Danny and bring Burke on. Look, we said it already. Mandrew didn't do too much, and someone made a brilliant point in the comment section during the night after we spoke about the game, about how the fact we haven't seen someone do something like that since Gary Twigg, when they don't do anything in a game and then they come up with 2 goals. Do you know what I mean? And then you kind of sit there and you think about it and you reflect and you say, do you know what? That person's actually bang on, because he done nothing in the game except for 4 goals.
I actually, Philip, to be honest with you as well, I think Philip, myself personally as well, probably a little bit harsh on Andrew in a way in that game.
Yeah.
I think about it. On reflection, I'm the same. But his job wasn't to run the midfield in the game. His job was to be Graham Burke as such and be elusive and get into areas where he can score goals. That was the job of Towell, Watts and Gary O'Neill, let's say. So on reflection, we're probably a little bit hard. No, we didn't criticise him. We just thought that others are better. And in many ways they were, but that was his job in the game to do that. And that's all you can ask for Burke and Mandrew playing that position, is to get in and get opportunities to either assist or score goals, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, Keith. And look, I suppose the other side to it is, remember, the first chance he had in the game, he did score. Do you know what I mean? And he was in that space where Burke should be, or himself should be. And like, I think the thing is with Rovers, right? When it comes to the likes of Mandrew and Burke, you're not. I think some fans, sometimes myself included, are a bit unsure what we're supposed to be getting when it comes to what Bradley wants in them, because, I mean, you've got, as you said there, you've got the likes of O'Neill, you've got your Richie Towells, do you know what I mean? Dylan Watts. They are the lads that's set up to play.
Occasionally.
Yeah, Finn occasionally as well. Yeah, they are the lads that get the ball into those boys. So therefore, they're kind of the playmakers, if you'd like to put it that way. Whereas I think sometimes, maybe myself as well, I think Burke and Mandrew are supposed to be the playmakers. But look, it is contrast. It's your left and right, whichever side you want. Do you know what I mean? Like, whichever side your preference. So I don't know. I think it's set up perfectly for them, Keith. But to answer your question, again, I do think it's got to be Mandrew to start and Burke to come off the bench if it's a niggle with Burke.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned how they looked like they were dangerous on the flanks of their full-backs pushing forward. Now, I think they might be a bit more cautious, to be honest, Tala. Yeah. But I think Rovers could deal with that because they play with wing-backs and with 3 centre-backs, so they should have enough cover there. Will Scales play, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. My heart's broken
Yeah,
about
it's a
this
weird
one,
one.
to be honest. Yeah.
Kavanagh's back too, remember, as well, and Scales didn't do anything wrong, but we don't know what his head is like with the Celtic. What looks like he is going to Celtic, in all honesty. So that's
Yeah.
up to Bradley to decide what he sees on the in the individual, I suppose, isn't it? But if he doesn't play,
Yeah.
Kavanagh's,
He's a well capable replacement, to be
yeah,
honest with you. Obviously we haven't seen too much from him since his terrible injury, which is it's great to see him coming back from it. And do you know what I mean? The more minutes he can get in the tank, the better. Obviously, this is a big game for him, and maybe if, like, I'll be honest with you, there's a week left in the window for Celtic. I think this is where I think they need to get Scales done sooner rather than later. I think it is the start of the season. Oh, no, it's not the start of the season, so they've got a couple of weeks left. It'll be interesting to see, Keith.
because there's possibly 600 grand on the line here as well, so there's injuries and stuff, and I'm sure Scales doesn't want to get injured. I'm not saying he wouldn't do his best, but subconsciously you're thinking of a move like that, you don't want to get injured, do you?
Let's be honest, Keith. It's like it is that as well, yeah. But like the other side to it is, it's Daddy Desmond's money. Like Daddy Desmond's paying Daddy Desmond, so do you know what I mean? There is a bit of a contrast in it when it comes to it. Look, I think he'll play. I do think he'll play, and the reason why I think he'll play is because I think he's a type of player that can kind of put that stuff aside. You know what I mean? And like, we've seen obviously what happened with Bulger when there was a big incident with Bulger during the year. Apparently, Bradley did let him go in and put one in on him. That's when he did head low from him. Apparently, Bradley approved of that. So, barring the headbutt, he did seem to contain himself quite well and done quite well in the Sligo game as well, actually. So, I think he'll start the game. It's a toss of the coin, Keith. You know what I mean? We can sit here and we can talk about it all night, but again, we don't know what's going on in the Rovers camp, and we don't know what's going through Stephen Bradley's mind. But I was just thinking there as I was talking, if there's any game that you'd want Sean Kavanagh to have to come into, it's a game like this, because he loves stepping up on the big occasion. But as well as that, I think a game in Tala where he's not going to be on the back foot constantly, do you know what I mean? He's going to be able to go forward. He loves getting forward, Sean does. So I think this game will probably be set up perfect for him.
I think the point is, though, Shamrock Rovers have an array of options. Like, even Sean Hoare might come in, although I'm not sure he will come in. I think he'll stick with Grace, who's been playing brilliantly lately, especially Pico Lopez, who was excellent the last game against Pats, by the way, and Joey
I don't
O'Brien.
know. Do you think so? Yeah. Do you think he'll play? Do you think Joey will play?
I don't know. It's a tough one because Joey has that experience, doesn't he? That international Premier League type experience. But that's my point, though. He could bring in Sean Hoare and there's no real problem. And this is kind of the point I'm making, really, overall, by mentioning these, really, as well. These scenarios they have as well. But I suppose from Shamrock Rovers' point of view, what's a very good result? What's a bad result from your point of view?
Well, I think a bad result is anything but a draw. If we lose the game, that's I think we're in big trouble. But I don't see that happening. I think an excellent result, Keith, I think an excellent result is 2-0. To be honest with you, I think if we can, regardless if they score and we win the game by 2, like obviously the away goals doesn't come into it, but I just think it'll take the pressure off us. Do you know what I mean? So
I don't think they come back for 2-0. Personally, I don't think they come back for 2-0. To be honest with you, that's my personal opinion.
I think it'll settle. Like Rovers, when it comes to it, like if we win 1-0, Keith, though I know exactly how we'll approach the game in the second leg. We will literally wait for them to come on to us and we'll counter. Like, and that's what Rovers love. Not that they constantly set up to do that, but they love when teams come and press them. We've seen it against Dundalk. They absolutely played them off the park when Dundalk tried to come and do it. They got a spanking and got put back in their place. So I think if we can do that, I think if Rovers can win the game, any win, I'm not going to say scorelines, any win in the first leg sets us up fantastically for the second leg. And I think you'll agree, Keith, if we do win the game, I think we'll win the second leg as well. And that'll be us into the playoff round with a big, big chance of going through to the group stages.
Yeah, I fancy them strongly. I think they'll win the first leg 3-1 or something like that, Philip, to be honest with you.
Don't be doing that to me, Keith. Jesus Christ. I'm on edge already as it is.
I know. You know what? I'll say 3-0, so that might help.
Oh, here we go. A bit better. But I'll tell you one thing. I cannot wait for the game, Keith. And even though, look, it looks like summer's finished here, things only seem to be heating up in Europe. That's for sure.
We'll leave it there. Brilliant, Philip. Excellent stuff. Guys, subscribe to the channel. Hit your bell notification button so you don't miss a video. And comment below. Thanks a million.
Cheers, Keith.